There is no more important, or for that matter, closely watched court in the world than the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, everybody obviously tries to figure out how the 9 justices are going to rule in any issue, and also why, which is why this Times article on the same-sex marriage case before the court caught our eye, and it did it for 2 reasons. First off, public opinion and what we'll call the balancing of court decisions. Now, much of that focuses on Chief Justice John Roberts, whose legacy, the article at least contends, is tied to the standings of the court itself, how the court and how the American public view the Supreme Court. Now, the court's public opinion rating, it fell 10 points after the Citizens United case, money and government ruling. We talked about this last night. Roberts, he was a major force behind the case and a swing vote when it came to the court's decision. Now, since that ruling in 2010, the Times does note that there's been a change in the way that Roberts has led the court, that he seems to be trying to pair conservative-leaning decisions with progressive-leaning ones as well. And all you got to do is look back to 2013 as a perfect example. In the final days of its session, court ruled to overturn a major part of the Voting Rights Act, a very conservative-leaning decision that Roberts, in fact, wrote the majority opinion for. But just one day later here, the Supreme Court overturned the Defense of Marriage Act, DOMA, a huge victory for gay rights and same-sex couples, and same-sex marriage could play also a similar role in these upcoming decisions in session. The Supreme Court now considering a case that could make marriage equality the law of the land. But some of the left are worried that that ruling could be the one to appease the left, just as the court rules on another Obamacare case, one that could all but dismantle health care reform. And Justice Roberts, he cast a swing vote, as you remember, that actually upheld large parts of Obamacare in 2012. The fear of some is that Roberts positioned the court to now reject it in this session. And let's break into 2 parts, Mark. First off, do you believe that there is a logic to what they're saying, that in an effort to hold up not only the import but the balancing of the court, that there's a conscious decision, not just what goes on the docket, but which cases come on the docket that will leave, let's say, mixed decisions, to use a boxing term?
It's a political institution. Everybody knows that. Richard Posner has written about it extensively. And you remember back when I first started appearing on the show, I said, well, I think the court is going to uphold Obamacare, and I think Roberts is going to be the swing vote, and everybody said I was nuts. It wasn't because I have any kind of intellect.
We still say you're nuts, but
well,
you're
I
right.
am nuts. But the reason was, 2 months before the decision came out, there was a front-page article in the New York Times saying public opinion of the Supreme Court was at an all-time low. The chief uniquely has to worry about his legacy and public perception of the court as an institution. I think that's why he flipped, and that's why I predicted he would flip. So it's a political court, and it's always been influenced by popular opinion.
It then begs the second question, which is we were getting into a debate, and Andrew earlier in our pitch meeting was saying, you know what, the court, if they come down, for example, for take gay marriage now, they should support it on the merits of it, not because all of a sudden it's more palatable now. And I'm like, the court's reflective of society.
It's true.
And he said, but that's not what they're supposed to be. It should be the one body in this land that's not a political animal, that's not, Republican, Democrat. I know how naive that sounds, but the premise of it is, and they should, whether it's 1965 or 2015, they should rule yay or nay depending on the merits of the case and the constitutionality of it. Is that just delusional, Jimmy, or do we want our courts to be more reflective of the culture and the times they live in, whether it is with race relations, sexual identity politics, whatever the case may be?
We have the same Constitution we had during slavery.
But we interpret it very differently, right?
Obviously, the public mores and the way it changes over the decades and centuries has to affect the interpretation of that very same Constitution. Otherwise, we'd still have what we had back then. So there's no question about that. What this article, I think, was more geared towards was whether or not the court is manipulating the cases it takes, when it takes them, and how it renders the decisions in order to dull in the impact on both sides. Because you have public opinion to the right, to the left. Some opinions are going to upset everybody. You're always going to have people that are upset and not upset. So they have to rule. Public perception and public mores and public opinion has to affect how they rule. I think this was more about when they rule and how they pair their decisions so nobody gets too angry.
I look at this through a different prism, I guess. Yes, the Supreme Court's popularity or approval rating has dropped down to 44%, which is very low, okay? And at the same time, according to the article, the number of cases in which the vote has been 5-4 is higher than it's ever been before Roberts became Chief Judge.
Yep.
But what else is that related to? And that is the fact that the public's approval rating of government in general is way
Exactly
down.
right.
And so I think there's a linkage there.
Reflective of society.
You know, and so again, when you look at the Supreme Court, I mean, there are two judges. I mean, Mark probably can speak to this better than I can. You know, Scalia and Thomas, I don't think
They don't
care what the popularity
They don't care.
rating is.
In a way, they're
Okay.
more transparent and honest.
That's right. But the point of the matter is, let's bear in mind, unlike politicians, congressmen, senators, presidents, these guys are appointed for life. Whatever the public thinks of them, they cannot be removed from office. They get carried out by the handles or they walk away.
Well, I guess
I mean,
that's
here's the
my
thing.
point.
We know how the same-sex case is going to go right now, 6-3. Right now, we know how the case is going to go. Right now.
Yeah.
It's just done.
But would we rather, I know we're up against it, I personally I'm not fond of people who are strict constructionists, but I can make an argument that they are at least more responsive to the job
As
description.
long as it's not Bush v. Gore, absolutely right. Absolutely right. There's a predictability to their jurisprudence, whether it comes out to be a pro-defense ruling or a pro-government ruling. As a criminal defense lawyer, our best friend in the last 20 years is an Antonin Scalia.
Yeah.
That's right.
So because they are, again, put Bush v. Gore to one side, barring
That's a
the
big part of it,
outlier
right?
political case, they're going to be consistent in their philosophy wherever it leads them.
Okay. I have a fascinating debate when we come back here. I'm curious where the guys fall on it. You've probably seen it, maybe you own it, or your friend uses it. I'm talking about the Waze app. It helps drivers detect where the cops are located. Now police wants Google to get rid of this police tracker. The question is, should the app or even other similar devices be illegal? When it comes to law enforcement, where are the rights here of the driver and others? Stay with us. We'll get into that after this.